With the holiday season, December's a lot of fun, but it can also get really crazy. And about this time in the month, a lot of people are freaking out, going, oh my gosh, I need like that one more present. So I thought I'd try to help you out with a couple of book recommendations. Chanticleer and the Fox by Barbara Cooney is one of my favorite books. It's based on a story from the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. The story, along with the gorgeous historically accurate illustrations, means that this book is not just good for kids, but also grown up book nerds. It's a really simple story. It's just about how a rooster escapes from a fox. But it's very well told, and the illustrations are really, really charming. If you need a family gift to send to someone that you won't be seeing this holiday season, send a print or audio copy of the best Christmas pageant ever. If you're feeling extra generous, you can also purchase the brilliant new film adaptation on Amazon. This classic story by Barbara Robinson is so funny, and it's a great way to pass the time on a long drive or during a flight. Your sister-in-law will thank you if you send a copy of this before Christmas to help ease the pain of holiday travel. If you've got a younger child in mind and you really want to make them laugh this holiday season, try I'm Not Santa by Jonathan Allen. This book is really funny. It's about a little owl who gets mistaken for Santa because he has a Santa hat on, and he throws an epic tantrum partway through, so there's lots of good chances to do silly voices. I love this one so much that even though we found it at the library, I'm going to be buying it. In fact, I think it's due pretty soon based on the card in the front cover, so I'd better get on that myself. This is a book that I've had for a really long time, as I'm sure you can tell. The Elves and the Shoemaker is a grim story, but it's been retold by Freya Littledale and illustrated by Brenton Turkle. The art style is really, really beautiful, trying to keep close to how people dressed and what their homes looked like when this story was first recorded. It has a bit more of a Scandinavian look to it than Germanic, but that's okay and it suits me just fine. It's just such a sweet story about working hard no matter how things get, and then showing kindness when someone helps you when you're down on your luck. Even though this story is set at Christmas time, you can read it year round and your kids will love it. I'm trying to help everyone out here, so I'll make a recommendation for grown-up readers. If you know someone who enjoys being immersed in a different world with rich, interesting characters, let me recommend Master and Commander by Patrick O'Brian. This is the first of 20 novels in a series about Captain Jack Aubrey and Dr. Stephen Maturin. The shortest way I can describe these books is Jane Austen, but with dudes. These stories are set in the same time period that Austen covered, and it has the same subtle wit and deep character development. But instead of being set in England, these books follow the daring deeds of the Royal Navy. Imagine a prequel to Persuasion written from the perspective of Captain Wentworth, and you'll get the idea. I love these books. They sometimes get really specific about how boats work, but if that won't put your giftie off, go for it. With the rise of self-publishing online, I've kind of been confronted with the problem that I get approached by a lot of people who want me to talk about their independent book, and it's hard because you don't want to favor one person or another. You also have the problem that self-published books vary wildly in quality. It can be incredibly hard to break into publishing, but then at the same time, someone who has broken into publishing has access to, editors, spell checkers, proofreaders, people who can just say, look, that part of the story doesn't make sense and you need to fix it. However, there was one indie book that I heard about recently that I was quite excited about because I followed this YouTuber for a while. Dave Cullen wrote Deus V Machina. It's halfway between a sci-fi, a thriller, and a mystery novel. It stars a detective who lives in Las Vegas in the near future after there's been a catastrophic war involving AI. I think this book would be really good for a teenager who's maybe ready for something more grown up, but you want to make sure that there isn't any content in there that you object to. There's very mild language in it. As my grandma would say, words out of the Bible, so they're not as dirty as the other ones. And those are very infrequent. And there's nothing in it that parents would object to in terms of the behavior or morality of the characters. There's obviously goodies and baddies and some really exciting fight scenes. I will say I wouldn't recommend it unless the reader was interested in issues around morality. You don't necessarily have to be interested in religion as such. Religion does come into the plot, but it's really more questions of ethics and how you relate to the sense of meaning in the universe. If that's just completely not in a kid's interest, they may not click with this. But I would say if you've got like a 16-year-old who's grappling with some of the bigger questions of the world and the universe, an indie book that I strongly recommend is Deus V Machina by Dave Collin. I've got one more indie book to recommend, and this one might come as a bit of a surprise because it's not literature. It's not usually what I would talk about on this show, but you know what? Not everything needs to be highbrow. And although I'm obviously very passionate about high quality books for children and families, once in a while you just need a really, really good laugh. And I saw this book come up in my Amazon recommendations, and I just was like, that looks very odd. And I couldn't resist it. So I ordered Gary the Farting Gingerbread Man by the distinguished author Tootin' Tom. This book is silly. It is dumb. Its humor operates on a single level, and I love it. My kids love it too. They laugh. It's not mature. It's a little bit rude if there's grandparents in your family who might be a bit, shocked by such bodily humor. Maybe read it when they're not around. But if you like a good fart joke, you can't go wrong with Gary the Farting Gingerbread Man. So those are some quick holiday recommendations from me. But what recommendations do you have? What's something that would suit a kid who's maybe, in the 5 to 7 age range and likes sports? What's one that's good for a 12-year-old who's just starting to discover history? Throw out your recommendations. I'd love to hear them, and I know the other listeners would too. Merry Christmas.